Let's get started. Everyone, I'm Rob Brockman, hosting today's webinar, and the topic today is going to be Mastering Law Firm Security with Microsoft 365. This is our monthly Friends of Affinity webinar series. I think this is our fifth or sixth we've done since June of this year. So we're happy to have both Mike and Tom from Acellus here today. Just a quick introduction. I mean, we've got Tom Fazio. He's the Director of Cybersecurity at Acellus, and then Mike O'Neill's also on here, Director of Sales from Acellus, and then I'm Rob Rockman, the host today. So I just have one more quick slide, and I'm going to turn it over to Mike and Tom. Please try to make this as interactive as we can. You are muted just because we've got a number of people on here, but you can use the Q&A, you can use the chat, use emojis. Feel free to jump in at any point. We'll try to stop and ask people to put questions in the chat. And if we see questions, we'll try to answer them, as we go. If we miss any of them, we'll do a little Q&A at the end as well. All right, so appreciate everybody joining us. And with that, I'll turn it over to you guys.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. So in this presentation, we're going to talk to you about legal security and law firm security. What's the strategy around legal and law firms? What's the strategy around securing law firms? We're going to talk a little bit about the problems facing legal and what you can do about it. Essentially, one license is going to handle everything for you. You're going to get a lot of tools with that license from Microsoft, and we're going to talk to you about how you can use them and what they are. A lot of people have a hard time kind of understanding Microsoft licensing. There's a lot there. Sometimes we don't even understand Microsoft licensing, and it takes us a while to pick that stuff up. We've audited over 150 law firms during our tenure at Acellus. And generally, we find that most law firms are using the wrong licensing. Usually, they have a basic license or an E3 license, and we're going to show you how to kind of eliminate some waste. Maybe you have some other tools in your stack that you can get rid of because you can use the Microsoft licensing. And then finally, we're going to get you more secure using those licenses and using the tools that are in there. We're going to tell you how we can improve your security posture big time.
Yeah, and one thing to throw in there too, there's just one license you get, and it comes with almost everything you need to essentially be your own security company. And that's one of the cool things Microsoft has done here is they've allowed law firms and legal aid organizations to essentially be their own IT company in a lot of ways. Whereas you used to have to rely on a company like Acellus to implement all these different tools and then manage them. And when they broke, you needed to call them. Now you get this and it's in your 365 tenant. You own it as the law firm. You could always bring in a partner to help you with it. But, the important thing is you own it and you have that power. So it's a really cool, we're going to, again, kind of go top to bottom. What are the, top, 5, 10, 15 things you could do that would dramatically improve the security, all with the money you're pretty much already spending, because the vast majority of the law firms we audit are already spending, even if they're on the wrong license, they're spending enough for the right license to have all these tools to do all these great things. And so we're going to, hopefully show you how to do that today.
So who is Acellus? We basically grew up in legal. Our company was started consulting with legal firms and doing a lot of consulting and implementation for practice software. And since then, we've become experts in managed IT. We turned into a managed IT company. When I came on board, we became essentially experts in cybersecurity. So we put a lot of tools into place. We had a lot of law firms that really wanted to up their game as far as security. You see all these acronyms here: MCP, MCSA, CCNA. We have OSCP, who's a certified professional hacker. There's a lot here. I'm actually a CISSP, so that just means that I've passed some tests that show that I know my stuff. And really, all of our guys pass tests that show that they know their things. We don't hire slackers, essentially. So all of our guys are good engineers. We have a talented technical staff. You can look these up on your own time, but just rest assured, we're gold partners. We know what we're doing.
Yeah,
I don't know if you want to add anything.
Tom's being a little modest because CISSP, like in my opinion, that's like the bar exam for security professionals. So that is some major coursework. Even me, I'm 365 Azure and Azure AI certified. But kind of most relevant for this meeting, Microsoft Gold Partner, which is like the highest level you can get. So we really know the licensing well. We know the tools. We've deployed them for hundreds of law firms, and so we're excited to kind of show you that.
So we understand all the tools and the tools that firms need. Essentially, there's a lot of different things that you guys are doing here. We understand how to implement them, how to secure them. There's a lot of really cool things coming around the corner with Microsoft. They're actually creating a lot of hooks into like NetDocs, for example, and things like that, where we can get alerts on the security side. And what that helps us to do is grab all that information and see it and act upon it. So I'm excited to see that coming into play. We mostly manage high-tech law firms or law firms that are low-tech that want to be high-tech. They come on board with us, and we essentially kind of move them through the paces and make sure that their progress is happening. We work with them just over time, and it's a true partnership essentially.
We do also have, a good footprint in legal aid organizations. So if any of you are, legal aids or otherwise nonprofits, we're very familiar with the LSC, technology baselines and things like that. And so kind of everything we go through, just like Affinity, I mean, the vast majority of our clients are law firms or legal aids, so we're putting that, what you're about to learn with 365 and security is always going to be in that view.
Yeah, the cool thing is we have partners that are anywhere from one person offices to hundreds of users, and we work on everybody from that standpoint, everybody in between. So we're based in Cleveland, but we have a national presence. We work a lot with Inland, for example, is out in California, and we support them very well. So from that aspect, it's just very simple. Once we kind of figure out what we need to do for legal, we can attack all of them. So we talk a little bit about the legal security strategy here. Essentially, there's been a major shift. The world has changed. The question here is, has your business changed with it? Has your IT changed? Has your security changed? Because essentially everything around us is changing all the time, and we just have to stay on top of it. Maybe you're putting in workarounds because you have a tech stack that isn't working well for you. Are you supporting employees using modern technology and giving them the ability to work anywhere? You have to just make sure that your business and your data are secure regardless of where they are. So this day and age, after the pandemic, essentially, we had a lot of work from home users during pandemic, and after that, they're just not working behind, the businesses anymore. They're taking their laptops home, and speaking from experience, I can tell you that most of the bad guys, they've changed. They're using, they're not using the same antiquated technology that some law firms may not have, moved on from. They're using cloud platforms. They're using the latest social media strategies, hoping that you basically aren't tracking them. So we're going to tell you a little bit on how you can track them and get a better understanding of how you can do that.
Yeah, if I could throw in one more thought here. So we really think about, everybody's different. So like we try to make this for like a mass audience, but like some of you probably have just everything's on the server still. Some of you are probably all cloud. Some of our clients they don't have a physical office anymore. Most of us do though, right? But the point is that we're all dealing with these modern challenges of living in the digital age, remote work, hybrid work, working at all hours of the day. Back in the day, people piled into your office. They typically worked on one device. It was Windows. It was connected to your server. It was behind the firewall, so it was in the office. And when they were done, and you always have worked a lot of hours, so whenever you left, then they went home. But now, multiple devices, multiple operating systems. You as a law firm, you don't even own half of those devices anymore. but your apps and data are on them. And so, how are you going to deal with that, security piece? How are you going to make sure that that's safe? Another thing is IT management. So, again, you see it on the slide here, every user, we just consider them a walking, talking office, right? They have internet security connectivity needs. As an IT person, it used to be nice. I go to the office, you were all there. We went over your shoulder. We said, what's going wrong? We don't have that option anymore, right? Because you're working from home, Starbucks all over. A lot of your employees maybe are remote only. They've never been to the office. So we have to be able to put in IT and security that is highly scalable, that works a lot better, doesn't break as often. When it does break, can be fixed remotely really quickly. So some of those are very dramatic changes from just fast forward just 10 years ago.
Yeah, what does it mean if you put an expensive firewall in at your firm and it's protecting your employees inside the firm, but not outside? I know you can do, things like a VPN, but that's not always available. People want to have the ability to work from anywhere, and sometimes they'll be working on something, some just home office router they bought off of Amazon. Well, what does that mean for your business? Can you secure your data when they're using it? So and also like Mike said, your support could be suffering.
So, when we think about it, we'll wrap this up quickly and kind of get into the licensing and the security piece next. But when we think about these challenges, multiple devices, BYOD, multiple operating systems, none of that stuff works with servers anymore, by the way. Your Windows server can manage a Windows workstation. That was it. So, we have to put in tools. We want to ultimately evolve towards a server-free environment. We want to evolve towards unified endpoint management and these different tools to essentially be able to manage that environment so that you create a work environment that is agnostic to where and when people work, and it just works. And if they work at midnight at home, it works the same as effectively as if you work at midday and in the office. Well, as a result, let me pull out the laser pointer. There's two things that we got to think about. We got to think about the IT management implications of that. So we need to have mobile device management in place. That's going to replace the server functionality. The server used to do that for you, but it only ever works when your devices are in the office, essentially, and talking to the server. So it's broken in the digital age. We need to, make sure that devices are always up to date. Imagine this: you have a remote worker; they don't come to the office, but you need to get them a new device. Well, with 365, you ship them a brand new device. IT never touched it. You never touched it. They sign it. They unbox it. They sign in for the first time with 365 username and password, and it deploys itself. I mean, how many of us have had a bad user setup from the IT person or IT company? Let's automate that. We can do all of that now and solve these remote challenges. Same thing with security. We have to get better. What is zero trust security? It means every person, every device proves itself every time. Microsoft has given you all the tools to do that. You do not need other tools to do that anymore. So let's take a quick look at the license that you need to do that with. And then we'll get into those actual tools that you can set up.
Mike, just so you know, Tom is back on.
Yeah, I apologize for that. My internet just popped for a while. So
no worries. Well, I know I'm actually one of the licensing experts. Licensing is very difficult. Microsoft does not offer training on the licensing, and for good reason. It's always changing. So I'll start this, and maybe you take over, Tom. Most of the law firms we audit are on Office 365 E3 or an equivalent, and they're spending about $23 a user a month. And what they get for that is they get email, right? And they get the Office applications. So that's like Word, Excel, Outlook. And they get the productivity applications, which a lot of them aren't even using now. Teams, OneDrive, SharePoint, Loop, all these different really cool tools that are, again, underutilized. And that's all great. And a lot of people, especially the remote desktop server, they're on this because you could use Office on the terminal server, remote desktop server, Citrix server, whatever you were using for your virtual desktop. Then Microsoft came along a couple of years ago and created this Microsoft 365 Business Premium license. And they said, this is not for enterprise. This is for small business. And what is small business to Microsoft? It's under 300 users. So ask yourself a quick question. Am I a law firm? Yes. Am I under 300 users? Yes. If so, this is the license you need. Even the enterprise law firms, 500,000 employees, they'll get their 300 maximum licenses of Business Premium because it is such an incredible deal. So not only do you get the same Office apps and the productivity apps, the desktop apps like Word, Excel, and all that, and all the productivity apps like OneDrive and so on, but you also get 3 critical tools. You get Defender for Business, which is just a flagship security product that protects up to 5 devices for every employee, including the personal devices. And it's going to power so much of what you're going to see next in these next slides. You get Microsoft Intune. If your server used to manage devices with what was called group policy, that's not happening anymore in the digital age. Microsoft Intune is what replaced that. It's called a unified endpoint management system. And it's a combination of mobile device management and mobile application management. It's a lot of words, a lot of acronyms in IT. And some of it's unavoidable. Like if I asked you, like, should I do a will or a trust? Like very quickly, you'd be like, well, it's not so simple, cowboy. So we'll try to make this simple, but what the bottom line with Intune is that that's replacing your server. It's managing all the devices, no matter where they are, no matter when they log in, no matter who owns them, no matter what operating system. You can't do that today with servers. You can do that with Intune. We need law firms to adopt this to get serious about security and IT management outcomes. And the final tool you get is Azure Active Directory. Active Directory was a software that was on your server. Azure Active Directory is a cloud-first, cloud-only directory solution. What are the directories? Identity management. So what identity, another fancy IT lingo, people, manage your people. So this is going to make it so that we know that only your people are accessing your applications, and they're only accessing the stuff they're supposed to. And again, now that's something that works throughout the whole world. Again, licensing, very complex. You give up some things on the Office 365 E3 license, but you gain all these other things that are a lot more important. And you get features like, for instance, Windows Autopilot. I described how send a device to your new employee or refresh a device for an existing employee. They just sign in, it deploys itself. It's automated, it works, save money. I mean, the whole 9 yards. So, this is the license we need to get to. And is there some nuance? Yes, we live in the real world, it's complex. Some of you might actually be using the eDiscovery or advanced audit. Okay. Now we talk add-ons, so this is something that we're willing to help you with, by the way. We're a Microsoft partner. We love to help our law firms navigate to the right license. But I'm going to give you, Tom, actually, before we just do a quick demo of one of the capabilities, any thoughts on licensing? Do you think I covered the bases?
I just want to mention on the Defender for Business. So Defender when people think Defender, they think of the tool that kind of came with your Windows 10, Windows 11 licenses. And it uses that front end. But when you use Defender for Business, that's actually the 365 piece. And what that allows us to do as security professionals is pull in all the telemetry and data that's connected to these machines. So as these machines are doing things, they're essentially reporting back into 365, and it kind of gives you a visual picture. So it's a little bit more than just that antivirus that comes with Windows 10 and Windows 11.
That's a very important point. This is not antivirus. This is cloud gen antivirus to start with, but it's endpoint detection and response software. It provides DNS protection, it provides vulnerability management, a lot of the tools we're going to be looking at here in a moment. One use case, let's imagine that you have a user, you're logging in from Red Bank, New Jersey, but they're on a device that you're not managing. And so we get to choose on the business premium license, we get to choose what level of risk is acceptable. So in this scenario, we might allow them to take a document from SharePoint and view it, but we're going to protect it on download. We're going to say, no, you can't download it. Can't do that on E3. Can't do that on Business Basic or Business Standard. So a very important capability called conditional access. Not only do you have to have your username and your password and on a new login, a one-time code we send you or a push notification, but you have to meet other conditions, such as your managed device. Go ahead.
Sorry, there were a couple questions I think that related to the licensing. Maybe you want to cover those now since we've just wrapped up. One was about what about E5 licenses? E5 the same as Business Premium?
So Office 365 E5 is not the same as Business Premium. It's going to begin to get some of these, but really Office 365 E5, you're typically only going to go to that when you're full Teams phones. And so, I would initially say, no, if you're using full Teams phones, you might look at Business Premium with the Business Voice add-on, which is the small business phone system thrown into it. And it's really made to pair well with Business Premium. Again, E5, just like E3, will usually have some e-discovery things that you're paying a lot of money for that often are very underutilized.
Okay. And then the second question about licensing was, what is the difference between Microsoft 365 Business Standard and Office 365 Enterprise and Microsoft 365 Business Premium?
Yeah, excellent. So the Microsoft 365 suite is, a little bit different than the Office 365 Office 365 suite. I confess, the messaging stinks here. So it's easier to look at it this way. You have Business Basic, which is email with the Office apps. So you can only use them on the web browser. It's like $6 a user. And you have Business Standard, which is like $12.50 a user, and it's email plus you can install the apps on your computer. And then there's Business Premium, which is this right here. You have email, you can install the apps on your computer, and you get all this stuff. Office 365 E1 is an email only, $4. E3 is the $23 one. It includes a lot of these compliance tools, also unlimited storage for SharePoint or for OneDrive, and information protection for just 365, insider risk management, some of these very specific compliancy things. And then Office 365 E5 includes all this stuff, plus primarily a phone system. If you're confused, you probably should be, because Microsoft is easy. And that's where having a gold partner, if you have a gold partner, ask them. They should know, because it's hard to become a gold partner. You have to have dozens of certifications and you have to renew every single year. So you have to know this stuff.
Yeah, if we've got any more licensing questions, maybe we'll hold them to the end. Might be easier to explain one off too, if somebody's got some specific questions. And
I will be able to stay late, so I blocked off the afternoon. So I'm happy to answer those questions at the end as well, because it is complex, but it's fruitful, because you can save a lot of money by doing it right. Let's save some money. You want to take this?
Yeah, sure. Again, with the E5, you get everything. You get the entire kitchen sink of Microsoft tools. And what they did with Business Premium is they kind of took a lot of the pieces that small businesses would need, and then they left out the things that they don't, the things that are enterprise level, where essentially you need a lot more people to manage that or to use it.
So that there is no confusion, Office 365 E5 isn't the one that includes everything in the kitchen sink. Here's another one, Microsoft 365 E5, and then there's an E3 as well. So we'll table that, but let's look at just Business Premium right now, which is again what you're usually spending as a law firm already, whether you're on E3 and you should be on Business Premium, or many of you by now have found your way to Business Premium.
Mm-hmm. So the lowest hanging fruit really is the MFA, and the great thing about the Microsoft piece and MFA is you can use an authenticator app. You didn't used to be able to use an authenticator app when it first came out, but now you can, and that's very similar to the product called Duo, which I don't know if any of you are familiar with, but essentially SMS text messages for doing MFA are not that secure. There are ways to actually intercept that and steal it. So moving to an actual app on your phone where you're typing in a number that comes up on your screen and it's verifying, this back and forth identity piece. That's where you want to be. That's the best tool. DNS protection. So Cisco Umbrella was a product that we actually used to use with a lot of our clients. What that allows you to do is to control where your employees are going. It's great because except for a firewall basically will protect you on the inside of your environment, whereas Cisco Umbrella was an agent that got installed, and that would protect the person when they went home as well. So they've now included this into Business Premium, and we can block sites that are, pornography or maybe weapons or certain things you just don't want your employees going to on your device. And the other piece of that is it blocks newly formed domains. And why that's important is when these phishing bad actors will put out a campaign, they're generally going to a registrar and creating that site day of. So usually those sites come up and they're up for only 24 hours. back in the day, Cisco Umbrella would essentially vet that and make sure that that site isn't hosting something bad. Well, you basically get the same protection in Business Premium now too. We talked a little bit about antivirus. Defender's a great antivirus tool. But the best thing about the Defender piece is EDR. So you may have heard of products like Bitdefender or CrowdStrike. Essentially, Defender is an EDR tool. It can run playbooks. So, for example, if a machine gets hit with ransomware, there may be a playbook in the back end that says, "Hey, turn off this computer, take it offline. We'll handle it when the engineers have time." MDM is another piece that comes with it. That's essentially mobile device management. The reason you want that is if your employees have your data on their devices, like a smartphone or a tablet, you want the ability to clear that out. If they ever get terminated or something happens where they lose the device, you have the ability to go into MDM and essentially kill all that data that's on that device. Email encryption is another one. So there is a way to do email encryption with Microsoft. Again, another, you could spend more money on that from another product. Like we use Barracuda and that has email encryption, but same thing with anti-spam. So all these tools are essentially baked into this product license. So you're going to save all this money on not spending it on a separate vendor. Windows Pro. Go ahead.
Let me throw in 2 more cents there. So the email encryption is really powerful. And like a lot of times as a law firm, you got a solution, you finally got your customers to like accept it and they don't blow you up every time you send them something new, like they figured it out. And so you might not want to disrupt that. That's fine, right? But you do have powerful capabilities with email encryption, such as do not forward, do not print. So let's say you send a message to someone and they think they're going to be fancy and go print it to the physical printer, or they'll print it to a PDF. When they do it, it's blank, right? So you can make it so it's do not forward as well. It's also very professional and clean and easy to use. The anti-spam is very good solutions. There are sometimes we're going to still recommend additional third-party tools, but if you don't have this set up and you don't have a third-party tool, set this up. Because if we can eliminate your user from making the mistake by clicking on a bad link, there you go. I mean, that's the name of the game, really. Because your users are always, of course, the weakest link. I'm the weakest link. Tom's the weakest link. He's a security professional, but they're gonna try to find a way to get Tom. A lot of other tools in this license, and if you really think about it at a deeper, more philosophical license or level, and we're going to send you this whole deck. So we write these and put a lot of text in them so that it stands on its own when you come back to it in a week or two and we're not around. But at a deeper level, Microsoft is giving you the tools to be your own IT company now, and now you're not so deeply hooked in with your existing company. So remote monitoring and management. Intune does a lot of that. Another capability is SASE. SASE. And that's just where it's even a more robust way to make sure that your people are the only people that use your applications and data. All these capabilities are latent in this single license. $34 is underselling. That at the end of the day, that could easily be $50 because if you want to do MDM with AirWatch and you want it to be meaningful, that's more like $15 a device. And everywhere you turn here, this is really kind of a conservative estimate of what you could be using 5, 10, 15 different vendors to do. And I like this better. Fewer panes of glass, fewer integration points, fewer accounts to hack, fewer things to go down in the middle of a workday. It's definitely there's larger conversations as well. All my eggs in one basket. That's a good conversation to have with someone like us or with your partner. But to be clear, there's a tremendous amount of value. When we think about that $34, that's before Office apps, before email, before a free terabyte of OneDrive storage and SharePoint. So I won't try to sell Microsoft past the close, but we got to be looking at this license with that perspective. And with that, I know we have about another 5 minutes here before we open over to Q&A. Let's actually get secure. Tom is going to tell us how essentially we have 3 things to think about. How do we protect our assets? That's our people, our devices, and our data. How do we respond to threats? Because it's one thing, we're going to hopefully deploy tools so that the virus never happens, the ransom never happens, the hack never happens, but at some point it may. How are we going to respond? And then finally, how are we going to harden it, make that harder day in, day out to actually get hacked? So we have 9 tools. You implement them, you're looking at greater than 99.9% reduced risk of an account takeover, which is your number one threat. You're really looking at probably 99.99%. So these are the tools. They're in the license. You're not going to pay anything more than the price you're essentially already paying or probably should be paying. Tom, we've talked a little bit about multi-factor. I gave a demonstration of conditional access where we can strengthen multi-factor, but maybe touch base for people if they want to learn just a little bit more about single sign-on. We talked about the EDR, DNS protection, single sign-on, maybe vulnerability management as well.
Sure.
And specifically how the vulnerability management now, it works wherever the device is in the world. It didn't always be that way, right?
Yeah. Single sign-in is super important. And the reason that is because your users then only have to remember that one password. Hopefully you give them a really good passphrase and they log in with that passphrase and they use MFA, they use the Authenticator app from Microsoft. And now anything that they log into is essentially the same username and password, and it uses token based. So you could use conditional access around this. Essentially, you could say, hey, none of my employees log in from China. Let's block China. We don't need that. So you could do a lot of very powerful things with SSO and conditional access. What
we're also doing with single sign-on is, so let's be clear, this 365 account is the hub of everything, right? It can sign, so it should one day sign you into your device, should sign you into all your Microsoft services. It'll sign you into NetDocuments, into practice management, hopefully eDiscovery. There's some cloud eDiscovery tools out there now, and it's just going to continue to sign you into all these. And why would we want to consolidate those 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different accounts? Well, obviously, reduced attack surface, but more importantly, we're putting enterprise, Fortune 500 level security behind that Microsoft account. So by proxy, you're getting that security pushed out to NetDocuments and to AdVologics and all these different suites and tools.
Yeah, I like the graphic at the bottom right hand side, 8 trillion signals per day. So basically, Redmond has their own SOC for Microsoft, and they're analyzing all of the devices across the board, all this telemetry, so they can kind of focus on, we're seeing something happening in Chicago. This is bad. They could push that information out into SecureScore, which we'll show you in a little bit, and tell you, hey, we're seeing some real threats here that you need to take a look at. And these are kind of the sample alerts. So they alert on data loss, they alert on volume deletion. So somebody starts deleting files before they leave, you'll get notified about that. They alert on mail flow, threat management. So somebody clicked on a malicious URL, we got to investigate that device, right? And then permissions.
Example of that too, real quick, the malicious URL. I was working with a marketing company who had our website in a sandbox. So it was a different domain, but they were making some changes. And my Tom's security team, the SecOps department, calls and said, "Whoa, you clicked a malicious link. This is bad. Do you know what this is?" I'm like, "Actually, that's my marketing folks. So it's not malicious, right? I know what it is, but to have that ability, because this thing looked as malicious as it comes, like xyz.excelis.com. Like you would expect that would be a hacker's attempt to get that alert in real time, to be able to either prove no, this is fine and is expected, or not. Like that is the difference between you paying $150,000 ransom or not.
Yeah, another great tool is just-in-time access. So we talk about elevation of admin privileges. Essentially, at our business, we get alerted. The SecOps team gets alerted that anybody elevates themselves, and they may have to elevate themselves in order to do something, but then it's just in time. So basically, they elevate themselves for about a few hours, or maybe it might be a day. But after that time, it just drops back down to their original privilege. So this is actually one of the key pieces of the NIST cybersecurity framework, is making sure that people only have the access that they need. It's super important to do that.
So keep this in mind. We have these tools, right? They're going to produce alerts. They're going to produce security telemetry. So if you say engage with a company like Excelis to set those tools up for you, we're going to point those alerts to you or your internal IT company or to your existing managed service provider. But someone's got to do something with it's going to prevent a lot of attacks, right? They'll never happen. But someone's got to do something with this security telemetry. We have some rule, a ballpark of how many alerts you would expect from these suites when they're set up. So again, when we send the deck out, maybe take a closer look at that. And then, but in addition to setting up the tools and then someone doing something with the actual security threats when they come in and we need to act on them, there's one more thing we got to do, as I explained in the beginning, that's harden the environment. Tom, you want to wrap up by telling them about SecureScore?
Yeah, so SecureScore is a fantastic way to know about where you're at with any other vertical that you're so legal. You'll essentially log in, and you can actually log into this security.microsoft.com. And if you have access to your portal and you have Business Premium, it will give you your SecureScore, how it feels you rate compared to other organizations of a similar size. And what I like to say is what we want to do essentially is work from bottom to top and then top to bottom. So when I say that, what I mean is we want to harden systems so that we're reducing that attack surface. So even if somebody gets into the environment, we've done enough things to the environment to make sure that there aren't all these open services that they can now leverage. When you take things away from hackers, they just don't have the ability to do anything. So you just essentially, reduce that attack surface over time. And then also you're alerting. So, you alert to the environment, having somebody else in the environment. And then now, hey, at the lowest level, we've got everything kind of covered and we've reduced that attack surface.
So, I'll wrap it up with SecureScore and just say this, here's a way. Microsoft is this incredible tool. Everybody gets it for free, technically, if you're not even on Business Premium, I think. And it puts a quantitative number on a very qualitative thing, right? I feel like I'm safe. I feel vulnerable. But do you know that this is a quantitative system that you can then use to measure the impact and the difference you're making on your security posture over time? So I know it is Q&A time here, so I'll leave you with two thoughts. If you need a partner to install those tools and manage them, incidentally, Excelis does that. And so just think about that. Not only would we manage all those tools, all the alerting and all the security telemetry and act on it if something happened, not only if you did have an attack, you would have a partner ready to go. You wouldn't have to I got to pick up the phone and find somebody. But we're also adding on dark web scanning, quarterly user training, optional 24/7 human monitoring, like by default, just business hours. And, when you look at that, because you already, you own all that. You bring your license, we bring all the management behind it. You look at the price of that compared to a lot of managed security programs, that's 1/5 the cost. So we want people to use Business Premium and leverage the heck out of it. And then we can manage it for them at a very cost-effective rate. And if you don't have those tools deployed, it's not that much to get them out there. It's really not that much. So, one offer we do have, which we promised in the registration sign up, there's actually a lot more attendees on this webinar than so, kind of first come, first serve in terms of when you get yours. But we are offering a 44-point strategic assessment. You can read all that fine text later. Most importantly, that audit of the licensing review, and then creating a roadmap for you over the next, 6, 12, 18 months, whatever it is. How are you going to implement these tools to make a difference for your law firm's security? And that's in the context of your internal IT, your existing partners, or if you need a partner like Excelis, that's something we obviously are always very happy to help with.
We do have a few questions that we've got. I'll just kind of read them out as they came in, but one person had asked or made a comment, they can't get their M365 SB email encryption to cover Acrobat.
That's a little bit more technical than I'm prepared to answer right now. So I don't know the nuances of that, but when I follow up with this presentation, email me. I'll get my team on it and we'll see exactly what's the context that you're talking in. Yeah,
we should get a digest of the question, so you'll see who asked that question, Michael, and so you could reach out directly if you want as well.
Beautiful. I'd love to.
The next question was any considerations / advice on migrating the whole firm from our GoDaddy based Microsoft 365 subscription, which is limiting and annoying that we started out that way, to going direct through Microsoft.
I know GoDaddy's really, it's unfortunate. So GoDaddy and Intermedia and those hosted 365 providers are really for those onesie twosie kind of consulting companies and high performance coaching and things like that. It's not great for law firms. So they'll not only they charge a little bit more for the licenses, they mark it up, but then they block admin center. You can't do any. You can't get Secure Score. You can't.
Mhm.
And then they sell you the security tools. Here's our security tool. So it's a very straightforward point and shoot migration. But you should do it. You want to do it because you can't get in tune. You can't do these things otherwise. But most importantly, then you own it and they don't own it. That's your 365 tenant. And so, there's a simple way to move mail, contacts, calendars, everything you have over there into your own Microsoft Direct tenant. And then from there, you're liberated.
All right, great. A couple of questions here about pricing. One was, do you have a price point for solo business owners? And then second question on pricing, is 55 per user a good benchmark for firms less than 10 users?
So it depends let me pull up my own calculator here. It depends what you mean. So like, obviously, you'll need the business premium license. Tom, when we're thinking about, somebody in that 1 to 10 user space, if I come back to the pricing, I assume they're talking about if they wanted us to manage all that for them. What if they're under 10 user? I know that there's certain inherent limits, economies of scale when we do like fishing for the fish to fish their team and things like that. What's your thoughts?
Right. Well, there is a point of entry, essentially your ante. Unfortunately, we do put a lot of tools and we have people that actually do this monthly. Every single month, they're going in and working Secure Score. So that Secure Score will look the same whether it's 1 user or 10 users. So some of these things that we're doing, we may be able to save a little bit of money if it's just 1 or 2 because if they're doing password resets and things like that, and we set that up for them, we're only training 1 or 2 people, so we might be able to help them out there.
Yeah, definitely follow up with us. We want to have that conversation and what does this really look like for you?
And then the last one was, are there any tips, tricks for working with outside vendors / contractors that are not on your system regarding security?
There absolutely are. And Tom, I think that's really your baby. I know there's probably a handful of options.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, with the just-in-time access, you could limit them to what they can see and what they can, can't. So you could do something like that, where you kind of, block them off and put them in a sandbox of tools that they could use. Conditional access.
Okay. Awesome. We are at about out of time. I really appreciate you guys coming on today, and for those of you that joined us, we appreciate your taking the time to see these folks and what they have to offer and some of the thoughts they had on the Microsoft Security Suite. Obviously, if you are not a client of Affinity or you want to know more about Affinity, there's a QR code up there. We can do a free 30-minute consultation with you as well. And thanks everyone for joining us. And we'll be sending out our webinar information for November already. Wow. Probably in the next week or so. So Tom, Mike, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thanks everyone for joining us. And Karen, thanks for organizing. Appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day, everybody.
Thanks everybody. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.